as my disembodied friend just told us, we are recording today's program. We do have it set up so that if you're in the audience, only the back of your head should appear in the video, if that, but be aware if you turn around and wave at that camera right there, everyone's going to see you. One other logistical thing, the restrooms are out the door to the left. If you do need to leave to go to if you need to leave, please hold the door on your way out because it can be kind of loud when it closes otherwise. In a few moments, Rebecca is going to go over the guidelines for today's meeting. And I would just ask you to honor those, be respectful to the other people who are here trying to listen. Don't make me shush you. It's really not my favorite part of my job. So finally, for those of you who may not know me, my name is Sam. I am the community engagement librarian here. So that means most of the programs that I do are for the benefit of our local nonprofits or in collaboration with our local nonprofits, the League of Women Voters being one, and Delta Sigma Theta. Thank you. And it's really, doing these forums is one of my favorite things to do because it's community engagement. I like to see the community engaging back with what's happening in our area. So I appreciate all of you being here today. And with that, I will turn things over to Rebecca.
Good afternoon. Hello and welcome to today's candidate forum. The candidates and we wish to thank you for attending today's forum featuring the candidates running for Democrat District 5 congressional seat. My name is Rebecca Adewami, and I am a member of the League of Women Voters of the Palatine, Barrington, and Schaumburg areas, which includes Inverness, Hoffman Estates, and Rolling Meadows. I am also a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority. We are pleased to acknowledge our forum co-sponsor, the Barrington Area Library, which serves about 45,000 residents across a 72 square mile district spanning 4 counties. It offers diverse cultural and educational programming and provides meeting space for more than 300 nonprofit community organizations, including events like this forum. Please visit their library, their website for more information. Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated is another co-sponsor. It was founded in 1913 on the campus of Howard University. It is a public service organization who seeks to enrich the community through a focus on its 5-point programmatic thrust of economic development, educational development, international awareness and involvement, physical and mental health, political awareness and involvement. The founder's first act of public service was participating in the Women's Suffrage March of 1913. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization that neither supports, opposes, nor recommends candidates for office. The League was founded in 1920 in Chicago to help educate and inform the new female voters who had just won the right to vote. The League's purpose is to promote civic responsibility through the informed and active participation of all citizens. Providing this forum enables the members of the community to become better informed about the issues facing the community and candidates running for office. We are proud to offer this service to you. All sponsors of this forum are firmly committed to nonpartisanship and to providing an equal, respectful platform for every candidate, regardless of party affiliation. Now please rise for the Pledge of the Allegiance. Before we go any farther, as a way to remind ourselves why we are here and that regardless of our individual political views, we are all Americans, please rise. If you're wearing a hat, please remove it and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge the allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. There's some general information that we want to share with you before we begin. One of the first things is to please turn off your cell phone and other electronic devices that make a sound. You may want to check it just to make sure it's on vibrate, even if you think you already put it on vibrate. Today's forum will be recorded for the League of Women Voters and our co-sponsors for use in educating the public. A video of this forum will be available early next week on the League of Women Voters Palatine area website and the Barrington Library website and our new Vote411.org website. The candidates have agreed to the recording. The League of Women Voters claims copyright ownership of all recordings and transcripts produced from this event and reserves the right to publicize this forum. No campaign signs, buttons, or partisan materials are allowed in this room. No voice, image, or other duplication of the forum may be used by the candidates or the representatives to campaign or in any campaign advertising. All audience members are hereby advised that their image may appear in the forum, video, or photographs of the forum. We want to thank all of you for taking the time to attend the forum in order to help us stay within our time limits and out of respect for the candidates and your fellow attendees, we ask that you hold your applause until the end of the forum. No questions will be taken from the floor, and we ask that there are no interruptions, heckling, or other disruptions. Now I am pleased to introduce our moderator for today's forum. Dr. Mitchell A. Smith is an educator, facilitator, scholar, and executive with more than 3 decades of experience in the field of education. As a lifetime resident of Illinois, she is an alumna of Head Start, a first-generation college student, a proud member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and a published author. Dr. Smith sees education as a key to social mobility and has dedicated her personal and professional efforts towards helping individuals realize their goals. Dr. Smith holds a bachelor's degree in psychology from Northwestern University, a master's degree in early childhood education leadership and advocacy from National Louis University, and a PhD in educational psychology from Northern Illinois University. Dr. Smith?
I've been given multiple assignments and I'm trying not to fail any of them. And I just failed the first assignment. And so please come and help me there. I also would like to say thank you, Rebecca, for the introduction. And as a former preschool teacher, I'm thrilled to know that there will be no heckling today. And so please understand that I do know how to handle it if it comes up. Because once you've dealt with a 3-year-old, you can deal with just about anybody. All right, so welcome to everybody this afternoon. Thank you so much for your time and for being here with us. As Rebecca said, I'm Dr. Mitchell A. Smith, and I am pleased to be able to moderate today's forum. I am not a resident of this district, and I am not eligible to vote in this election. So I've been asked to serve as an impartial facilitator for this discussion as a volunteer with the League of Women Voters. I want to take a few minutes to explain to you the format and the rules for the forum. All of the candidates were contacted by mail, email, or phone and have agreed to abide by the ground rules provided by the League of Women Voters. They are as follows. Candidates have drawn numbers to determine the speaking order. I will rotate this order during the forum for questions. Each candidate will answer every question. Candidates' answers will be timed by a group of timers who have been trained by the League. They will hold up a sign indicating how much time the speaker has left. Timers, please raise your signs so everyone can see them. Thank you. Thanks to our timers for their assistance, and thank you to the panel for honoring what they are sharing. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for their opening statement. Next, each candidate will have 1 minute to answer questions. Candidates, I would be happy to repeat any questions if necessary. I also would ask at this time if candidates can make sure your mics are close to you. The microphones are necessary so that anything that's shared on the recording can be heard. And there's 1 button on your microphone that you need to turn on, and when it's green, then that means you're in action. Candidates will be given a 30-second warning, so please quickly complete your thoughts before you see the stop card. Time limits will be enforced out of respect for all candidates. Again, I'm a former preschool teacher, and we will stop when the stop sign goes up. If needed, a rebuttal may be requested. Candidates, you have slips in front of you. All you need to do is lift that up, let me know that you'd like to make a rebuttal, and then time will be allotted and limited to 30 seconds. Finally, each candidate will have 1 minute for closing statement. Questions have been submitted by audience members at the time of registration, by the candidates, and by local civic organizations. Questions have been reviewed for clarity, appropriateness, and to avoid duplication. We have done our best to ensure that questions are free of inherent bias. Candidates have been asked not to interrupt one another. Today, we will hear from 3 candidates hoping to serve the Democrat 5th Congressional District. With us today and are on the ballot are Matthew Conroy, Representative Mike Quigley, and Ellen Corley. Candidate Anthony Tomas was invited to join this forum but did not respond. I want to thank you all for your participation, and we will begin with your 2-minute opening statements. We will do this based on the number that was drawn. So the first candidate who will give their opening statement will be Matthew Conroy.
Hi, everyone. I'm Matthew. Thank you so much to League of Women Voters for having me, and thank you all for being here today. Before I dive into my policies, my positions, and what I would hope to fight for, I'd like to introduce you guys to who I am, what I stand for, where I come from, and what I believe. I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, and for a majority of life, I was raised by a single mother. My 3 sisters and I lost my father in the September 11 terrorist attacks, and being brought up by her, she taught me and my 3 sisters the value of hard work and putting others ahead of yourself. The other woman who I greatly admire and draw inspiration from is my wife, Lily, right here. I told her I wouldn't point, but I had to. Through her time as a successful entrepreneur and business owner, I've learned the value of integrity and the value about and importance of being passionate about what you do. I do not have a career in politics. I'm not someone who has served his entire life in political office. That doesn't mean I'm not qualified to serve you. My experience comes in manufacturing, real estate, tech, and finance. And today I'm going to show you why I should be the next representative for this district. Because I'm running a campaign based on 2 values, being unafraid and uncompromised. 2 things that we cannot say about our current Congressman, Mike Quigley. I believe that the role of the government is to improve the lives of its citizens and to lift them up. I believe that government needs to make massive investments in people, including universal health care, paid family leave, ensuring that every child in America has access to the highest quality education, universal school meals, that a woman's right to choose is a woman's right to choose, and that they have the ultimate say about what happens with their bodies, no one else. And I believe it is the role of the federal government never to enable, never to support, and never be complicit in war crimes and genocide. Thank you so much for your time and the opportunity to speak today. If I don't answer all your questions during the forum, I will absolutely stick around and answer them after.
Thank you so much, Representative Conroy. At this time, I would ask for Representative Mike Quigley to make your statement. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. First, I want to thank you all for being here and the League for hosting this. I wouldn't be here without the League. For those who remember your history, Cook County Board of Commissioners became single-member districts because of the League of Women Voters. It's the only way the democratic process would open up enough for someone without any money or resources to get elected. In 10 years there, I was known as the progressive. When the seat opened up, the Tribune and Sun-Times said, if you're mad about Blagojevich, vote for Quigley. And that's how I got here, and I want to thank the League. Look, the times demand experience. It is an extremely dangerous world, and our fragile little experiment in democracy is indeed at threat. I, as a member of the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, was part of the first impeachment investigation, the investigation into Russian interference in our country. I have been to Ukraine 5 times since the war started, including 50 miles away from the Russian border, meeting with President Zelensky. So look, it's a dangerous world and our democracy is at risk, and it's great to see signs. But we have to remember that there's more that unites us than divides us. It's an extraordinarily polarized country. The fact that I'm in the middle. I think it's appropriate because I got the Act for ALS passed, a real game changer on neurodegenerative diseases as the lead sponsor. It's because I can work with both sides. Can't work with this White House. I won't be at the State of the Union that's coming up this Tuesday, but I appreciate and respect that. I'd also say, whatever we talk about with policy in DC, the most important thing my constituents want is really good service. I will tell you, we have the best service office of any member in Illinois, and we're proud of that. We appreciate serving you, hope to do so as well.
Thank you very much, Representative Quigley. And last, we will hear from Ellen Corley. Your 2 minutes starts now.
Yes, thank you. To hit the button.
So there should be a green button on your mic pack. Here.
Okay,
Thanks for your help.
Back to
Thank you.
service.
Yes, I'm Ellen Corley. I'm a 70-year-old, according to one man recently, hippie from the 70s, you know, who my background really is, I was a teacher, marketing, moved that into marketing research, but basically I'm an analyst that has spent the last 10 years investigating what is driving the corruption that has brought us Donald Trump, and, you know, why can't we get rid of Donald Trump? Another way I describe myself is a adult child of a Republican family. I grew up in Bronxville, New York. My stepfather managed Ayn Rand's books and was, you know, worked with Milton Friedman. So I was raised in this ideology of supply side, you know, trust the supply side, it'll trickle down. And I came to realize through family, I saw him get involved really, but kind of taken by what I realize now is an AIPAC Trump honey trap, the way so many of our Congress people have taken money from AIPAC. And I realize that that's the biggest problem we have, and that's what I'm resisting today. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. Now let's move on to questions. Remember, you each have 1 minute to answer, and we will start with Representative Quigley. The first question, would you support campaign finance reform? And if so, what do you envision?
I will, I have, and will continue to do so. Campaign finance reform has been proposed, been on the House floor. We voted to support it. I would say with anything dealing with campaign reform, this can't be a unilateral surrender when it comes to that or how we draw our districts. This has to be bipartisan. We're not going to just change the maps in Illinois. We're not going to just change the laws for those in Illinois, because what we understand what the Republicans are indeed trying to do. So I have voted on this several times, will continue to do so. I assure you, nothing's going to pass until Donald Trump's out of the White House. But we're going to continue to advance legislation, have it teed up, ready to go, not just when we win back the gavels this fall, but when we replace him in the White House.
Thank you so much. Candidate Corley, same question. Would you support campaign finance reform? If so, what do you envision?
Yes, we desperately need campaign finance reform. The problem started with Citizens United, which was brought in by a process of, you know, Supreme Court enabling it. You know, so in order to get rid of Citizens United, we, along with that came, Rahm Emanuel was there at the time. You know, he put in caveats that we can get money for the police. I realize now from the Israeli Defense Force, you know, that was going to be, you know, there's just all sorts of loopholes that the reason why now we have, you know, trillions of dollars and totally no new candidates like myself able to come in. I haven't taken any money, and that's what I'm standing for is, thank you.
Okay. Candidate Conroy, same question. Would you support campaign finance reform? If so, what do you envision?
Absolutely, I support campaign finance reform. We need to get corporate PAC money, lobbyist money, and special interest money out of politics. All three things that our current congressman takes donations from. So while he says he's against it, he's actually profiting from it, and it's what's keeping him in office. So he can't actually do the things. He says we can't do it till we try to get until Donald Trump's out of office. Well, they tried to do it when Joe Biden was in office, and they still couldn't get it done. So he's shown year after year that, quite frankly, he is unable to get it done. This can be done at the state level. In Montana, they're actually proposing a legislation where they're going to change their state constitution to ban corporate and PAC money, basically saying, hey, as a corporation, you have the ability to do business in the state, but you don't have the ability to influence our elections. That can be done state by state, and that is something that absolutely in Illinois we should start, and we should also take steps at the federal level to address it as well.
Thank you so much. Our next question, we're going to start with candidate Corley. What, if any, legislation would you support to reduce the cost of health care?
I see the problem as, healthcare, again, it's the monopoly power of, there's, big healthcare, big tech. It's all this consolidation of the economy into what's called synarchism, ruled by the power elites, the oligarchs. That's the way it's been structured. Really, healthcare is just part of it, right? It really is got to be a complete, honest, open investigation commission into the way the power elites have captured our economy, right? And so it's at the local level. Basically, what I would do is open an investigation into all of this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Candidate Conroy, same question. What, if any, legislation would you support to reduce the cost of health care?
I support the Medicare for All Act. I think universal health care is the #1 step that we need to take in this country. Understanding that it would be a very, very big uphill battle in order for us to get that passed with money in politics. I think a good first step that we could take would be putting forward legislation to have Medicare negotiate drug prices, which would go after pharmaceutical companies and help have more negotiating power than private insurance companies currently have. That would be an easy way that we can help lower healthcare costs to start, and then we can continue from there to address universal healthcare.
Thank you so much. And then Rep. Quigley, same question. What, if any, legislation would you support to reduce the cost of health care?
And again, it's easier to talk about these things than to actually do them. I already supported the provisions in President Biden's legislation that allows us to begin the negotiation for prescription drug costs. I am an original co-sponsor on AOC's bill. So, again, it's easier to say what you'll do and how people are co-opted when you haven't been there. You don't know how things work. And I was proud that my first vote in Congress was Obamacare, which for many was, well, you're not going far enough. Well, we have to remember before Obamacare passed, you paid more for health care because you were a woman. You could have lifetime caps. If you had pre-existing conditions, you weren't going to get covered. So we have come a long way with people taking risk. 2 of my colleagues in Illinois lost their race because they voted for that. So it's not as if there aren't folks with courage who have voted and supported for these measures because of the right thing to do.
Thank you so much. We're going to start our next question with candidate Conroy. There has been public discussion about the direction and strategy of the Democratic Party following the 2024 election. How do you view the party's current position, and why have you chosen to run as a Democrat?
Well, I don't think the party has a current position. I think you can't have a position. You can't say you fight for the working class when you take money from corporations that screw them over every step of the way. Banks, Wall Street, airline, corporate polluters. You can't be a voice for the people, and you can't sell yourself as a party for the people when they can't distinguish you from the Republican Party. And that's a big issue. So I think moving forward, the Democratic Party needs to take true stances that reflect what people want. Raising the minimum wage, universal health care, universal public education, college, tuition-free college. We need to invest massively in our communities, paid family leave, childcare, universal meals for children to ensure that no kid shows up at school hungry. And we have to swear off corporate, PAC, special interests, and lobbyist money, because we will never reflect the true wants and voices of the people, and we will never be able to win an election on a national stage if they cannot tell us apart from our opponent.
Thank you. Representative Quigley, same question. There has been public discussion about the direction and strategy of the Democratic Party following the 2024 election. How do you view the party's current position, and why have you chosen to run as a Democrat?
I think it's easy to forget what took place in the last election. President Biden was telling people that the economy was fine, and we were telling the American people that President Biden was fine. So the second Democrat to step up and say, President Biden, you shouldn't run. It's not good for the party. It's not good for the country. And I took the heat for that because it was the right thing to do. The mistakes the Democrats made weren't what's being talked about here. It's trying to tell the American people how they feel, what the economy is. No, there isn't. The economy is great. Don't worry about inflation. And the president's great. Don't worry about that debate that maybe didn't go so particularly well. So the courage comes in many forms and many times. But that's the time that we need to stand up. And I was the second one to do it, and I would argue the one who was the most upfront about it. It's that kind of courage that we need moving forward, telling the American people that we understand what they need and supporting them.
Thank you so much. Candidate Corley, same question for you. There's been public discussion about the direction and strategy of the Democratic Party following the 2024 election. How do you view the party's current position, and why have you chosen to run as a Democrat?
Yes, I think the Democratic Party and the Republican Party are both basically captured by the AIPAC lobby, and they basically are now like a controlled opposition game. I think we pick Kamala Harris or Biden or Trump. And if you look at the way that Congress has voted on key issues, it's just all the Republicans vote against something, all the Democrats vote for something. The real issues are not being represented, and Mike Quigley is a part of this problem. He's kind of the invisible man. He's not speaking out. I would get on the media, do like Thomas Massey and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Ro Khanna do in terms of telling the people what is going on and answering their questions, what we're going to do.
I'd like to recognize candidate Conroy for a rebuttal. You have 30 seconds.
Yeah, Congressman Quigley came up and talked about having courage to speak out. We all saw that debate. Speaking out after the fact isn't courage. Coming out beforehand, when we all were saying that privately, we all know Joe Biden was too old. We all felt that the economy wasn't working. And what he just told us is that him and the Democratic Party lied to the American public, that they lied to us that Joe Biden was fine and that the economy was fine, until they could no longer lie, until we all saw that debate. But we all knew it. And that just goes to show why the Democratic Party and the leadership and Congressman Quigley do not understand this moment and do not understand real leadership, real courage, and cannot continue to lead us into the future.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to our next question. And we are going to start this time with Representative Quigley. This question is, how do you view the United States relationship with Israel going forward?
Yeah, I think it begins with the fact that Israel was always a critical ally in the Middle East and will continue to be so. I think the problem for us is I equate Netanyahu with Trump in most matters. So I suspect I'm one of the few people in this room who would have actually walked through the streets of Gaza and been to Israel 5 times, recognizing exactly what's going on there. I also called for an independent Palestinian state, one of the few Democrats, especially to do it early on. So I understand what the risks are, what's taking place. I've called for a 2-state solution, and it's funny is I get campaign donations from people on all sides of that issue. So either I'm doing something very right or very wrong with all of them. It's a fluid situation, but one that requires experience to move forward, I think.
Thank you so much. Candidate Corley, same question to you. How do you view the United States relationship with Israel going forward?
We need to completely break with Israel. I think we need to declare war on Israel. Israel is the enemy, and AIPAC is their means of capturing 98% of our Congress people have babysitters, as Thomas Massey revealed. Mike Quigley, it's taken 250,000, according to Track AIPAC, over the years from Israel. And there's no doubt that that's why we're committing genocide in Israel. And it was essentially, there's a lot of evidence that October 7th was planned so that Israel and Trump could come in and, raise it and then put in their peace, board. It's disgusting. It really is basically a Fourth Reich operation.
Thank you so much. Candidate Conroy, same question to you. How do you view the United States relationship with Israel going forward?
I think we need to be honest. I think it's a genocide, and it's not just me, a UN Special Commission, Harats.
Okay, this is your next chance to check your devices to make sure that everybody's on mutes. One more opportunity.
Can I get to you?
You may,
Okay,
sir.
thank you. Doctors Without Borders, Israeli genocide scholars, Israeli Holocaust scholars, all agree it's a genocide. We should not be complicit in war crimes and a genocide. We should stop sending military aid, something that Congressman Quigley doesn't agree because in December, he authorized a bill that sends $3.3 billion of additional aid to a country that is committing a genocide. We have to be honest. If we consider someone to be an ally, then we have to hold them to the standards that we would hold our own leaders to. And that means if someone is breaking the law, if someone is committing war crimes, we should not be complicit in that. And that is how we should approach not just our relationship with Israel, our relationship with every country moving forward.
Thank you so much. Our next question, we're going to start with candidate Corley. Do you support creating a path to citizenship for some or all undocumented immigrants? Why or why not?
Yes, I'm completely open to a path to citizenship. I actually, at this stage, am for open borders totally. I see how our corrupt shadow government, based in the empire, has using, this is a Steve Miller idea of using these walls to keep people out. I learned from a sociology professor from Colgate that it was before 1913, we didn't have immigration laws like this. Actually, my ancestors came to Jamestown in 1600 on three sides. It was related to Pocahontas's aunt, Cleopatra. And I know that England came to kill everybody, and now is the time to tell the truth about it. Between the blacks, the white, their family had the first black slave, and so we need like the 1619 Project.
Thank you so much. Candidate Conroy, same question to you. Do you support creating a path to citizenship for some or all undocumented immigrants? Why or why not?
Yes, 100%. Immigrants contribute more to this country than they get back. They pay more in taxes, considering that all undocumented immigrants, I apologize, are not eligible for Social Security, are not eligible for government benefits. We need to give these people pathways to citizenship. They're doing jobs that, quite frankly, Americans aren't willing to do. Most Americans aren't willing to work in fields picking vegetables all day. We need to make sure that the people who are helping drive the economy and who are help part of the economy are going to have an opportunity to stay here. Also, one of the number one crisis that this country faces is a housing shortage. Immigrants make up a disproportionate portion of workers in the construction industry, and we need to ensure that the people who are going to build the housing that we so desperately need have an opportunity to stay here.
Thank you. Representative Quigley. Go ahead.
I've supported comprehensive immigration reform. I voted for it. I'm not sure how this became a partisan issue. Ronald Reagan signed bills twice giving amnesty here, but this is where we are. So I will continue to support it. I don't support open borders. There are bad people in the world. There are people who traffic humans. There are people who traffic drugs. I'm on the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. There are people here who want to kill us. 9/11, and I respect the loss that Mr. Conroy's family had, should not be forgotten. So there are those who want to come to this country and do us harm. I don't support open borders, but we have to deconstruct ICE and rebuild it from the ground up to provide those core functions to prevent that kind of trafficking, but not to do the damage they're doing to people and our economy.
I do a rebuttal.
Candidate Conroy, okay. Candidate Conroy has a rebuttal. You'll have 30 seconds. and then
Yeah,
I'll
this is for Congressman Quigley. You sit here and say you respect my loss, but year after year, we continue to sell weapons to Saudi Arabia, weapons packages that happened under Joe Biden, Donald Trump, and Barack Obama. Why have you not once stood up and said so? Block those packages.
Yeah, because the NDAA is a little more complicated than with.
No,
all due
these are
respect.
separate arms packages.
Gentlemen, I just want to remind us, we'll have 30 seconds for a rebuttal. So if you want to do a rebuttal, I just need to be
Ask me a
signified.
question.
I understand.
You can have my 30 seconds.
Okay, go right ahead, Representative Quigley. Thank you.
I'm doing the rebuttal.
He's letting you respond.
He's asked me a question. Look, some of this is getting conflated because they're in individual packages and they're in NDAA. It's a dangerous world. You need to fund a military, right? I introduced legislation to amend that several ways, but in the final analysis, we have to be honest. So I support NDAA, which includes things I don't necessarily like, but understand that we have to do the greater good, because it also provides funding for Ukraine to defend itself against Russia. And there's many other instances there. There are bases in countries that defend us with the countries I don't like. But
Thank you,
that's,
Representative
again,
Quigley.
tough choices.
Thank you. And then Candidate Corley, you wanted to have a rebuttal to this last question?
Yes, Congressman Quigley fails to tell you on the Intelligence Committee, he has financed this Palantir system essentially that is behind ICE. The 50,000 to the police, the Israeli Defense Force. Our CIA worked with Epstein to coordinate these operations, 9/11, COVID, and it's all being covered up by Palantir and under the watch of Quigley.
Thank you so much. We're going to move to our next question, and we'll be starting with Candidate Conroy. What role should the federal government play in addressing access to education, housing, and employment?
I think the federal government should lead the charge. I think when it comes to housing, education, I apologize. What was the last?
I'm sorry, I lost my place too. Education, housing, and employment.
And employment. Okay, great. Thank you. When it comes to housing, I think too many states have shown that they are not willing to do what is necessary to address the housing shortage, Illinois being one of them. We need the federal government to help step in and make the changes there. Education, we need to make sure that we are providing the highest quality education. And if states aren't being able to do that, we need the federal government to step in. When it comes to employment, the biggest growth in our country happened post-World War II when we made massive amounts of investments from the New Deal, the GI Bill, building housing, providing economic opportunity. That is what we have to get back to. We are at a critical juncture here for our country where moving forward, we need basically a second New Deal where we can make investments in our communities for education, employment, healthcare, childcare, you name it, things that the government have failed to do during the last several decades.
Thank you. Representative Quigley, would you like me to repeat the question?
No, it's fine.
Thank you.
I think we begin with housing because everything costs too much and it begins with housing, right? We're probably in the city of Chicago alone, 125,000 units of affordable housing short of what we need to do. So there's a great book, Abundance, which begins to talk about this. I'm the second ranker on the committee that funds housing and transit, and the two of them are so intertwined that they're really the same issue. We have to get out of our own way. We have to encourage through changes in how we do zoning, how we do our building codes. We can't make housing the all-everything bagel. We have to understand the most important thing about developing housing is having more safe, affordable housing units. So that's the first thing we have to do. Then there's just going to be sheer volume of dollars that need to be put into this. Again, it's the subcommittee that I'm the second ranker on. Once we get the gavels back, we're going to pass legislation to do just that.
Thank you so much. And Candidate Corley, what role should the federal government play in addressing access to education, housing, and employment?
I think the federal government needs to be put back into power, basically, to the way it was before the 70s and the Federalist Society started implementing their Project 2025 type of theory, that one of them was to have states' rights, have all these give the money to the governor, the Congress, the cities, and let them distribute it. Before that, there was more aligned with equal rights, civil rights. They were deliberately trying to starve the people of Chicago and deprive them of housing, and that's how it's allowed to be done. The Democrats haven't stopped this Republican neoconservative, really ultra-Zionist plan to bring about a feudal world order and do to us what they've done to Palestine and trying to do to Iran.
Thank you, Candidate Corley. We're going to start our next question with Representative Quigley. What is your assessment of the causes of gun violence in the United States, and what role, if any, should legislation play in addressing them?
The candidate for Senate, Robin Kelly, has had legislation dealing with gun trafficking, which is still not illegal, right? So it would be, for a good first step is to address the actual gun trafficking. Still, the majority of violent crimes that take place in Chicago occur with guns that are brought in from elsewhere, Indiana, the South, and so forth. And universal background checks. It's just such a simple, it has bipartisan support across the country. It's just such a simple, common sense way to address this extraordinary issue. So there's a will there. Again, gun issues did not used to be partisan. Somehow in the late 60s and early 70s, they became partisan. We have to find a way to do this. I saw the press conference after the kindergarten massacre, gun violence that took place there, with the president and his wife crying. And they said, if we can't get it done now, how can we ever get it done? So that is perhaps the greatest frustration of my time in Congress.
Thank you so much. Candidate Corley, do you need me to repeat that?
The question?
Absolutely. What is your assessment of the causes of gun violence in the United States, and what role, if any, should legislation play in addressing them?
Right. I started studying gun violence with the Northwest Suburbs Organizing for Action Fellows group that was formed after Obama. And we were looking at what causes it. And what I discovered through the Chicago Alliance Against Racist Political Oppression is that it was started by the police state. The Israeli Defense Force trained police state. They use this false flag terrorism attack to say we need more police, more military, more ICE, more Palantir, all this surveillance state. That's the reality. Talk about trafficking. Jeffrey Epstein was working on this with Palantir, with the state of Israel to use human trafficking and blackmailing the politicians who would stop it. These are all operations.
Thank you. And then for Candidate Conway, I'm sorry, I was losing my place again. What is your assessment of the causes of gun violence in the United States, and what role, if any, should legislation play in addressing them?
So I think legislation needs to play the biggest issue when it comes to it. When I look at it, there are really two ways that we can break it. There's a political issue where lobbying, and particularly the NRA's influence on Republicans, have basically led them to say, this is not an issue we're going to address and we're not going to work with Democrats on. That's a big problem, and that's why we need to get money out of politics. But when it comes to actual enforcement, we need to go back to an assault weapons ban. We need to make sure that we have red flag laws that prevent people with violent past from getting weapons. We have mental health background checks. We need universal background checks. We need to close the gun show loophole. There are real solutions out there that we need to work towards. And I understand that one party is completely unwilling or to do so. It's up to Democrats to be able to do so. Show the country that you can govern and get it done. And so far they haven't. And that is something that we absolutely need to work towards to make it safer for every single person in this country.
Thank you so much. Candidate Corley, we're going to start this next question with you. How, if at all, should climate policy address economic and social inequities?
Say it again one time.
Absolutely. How, if at all, should climate policy address economic and social inequities?
You know, I have to admit, I think that climate policy is a bit of a hoax. I do think there's real issues, but I think it's kind of that problem, reaction, solution idea that, you know, people are thinking we're going to, you know, the whole East Coast will go under and, you know, if we don't address this. And the bigger issue is where it starts is the corruption of the government. You know, we're basically a criminal state, organized crime government, and they use these issues to, you know, to get people upset, and we've just got to focus on decorrupting. So I do think the states, we need to deal with pollution and things that that the businesses cause. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Conroy, same question to you.
You repeat it?
You need me to repeat it
Yeah,
for you?
if you don't
Yep.
mind.
How, if at all, should climate policy address economic and social inequities?
Sure. Okay. So one of the number one emitters of greenhouse gases is automobiles, from driving, from PFAS, from the tires, rubbers, everything. And if you look at often the most underserved, underutilized communities, there's no mass transit there. They're barren. They have to drive everywhere. So when we're looking at making investments in green technology, we can start with mass transit. We can start by making sure that we have robust transit systems that serve underserved and underdeveloped communities. We also need to invest in housing, building dense housing around these areas. We need to make sure that we're providing tax incentives in these areas for businesses to come in, for schools to grow, for students to have economic opportunity, not just in their neighborhood, but around the cities that they grow up in. That is how a true policy should work. It's not just focusing on one singular issue. It's how can we connect all these issues that are affecting the communities as well as climate change, and making sure that we are growing towards an equitable future that is going to ensure that our planet is around.
Thank you so much. Representative Quigley, same question to you. How, if
Well,
at all?
I got it.
You got it?
Thanks.
Okay.
I joined the Sierra Club since 1979. Grew up in Carroll Stream, had a teacher talk to me about environmental change and what we need to do. I got the money for the Red Line extension out of the House Appropriations Committee. I taught environmental policy and justice at Loyola University for 7 years. It is fundamental. It is why I got into this business. It is not a hoax. I lead a tour of my colleagues to a different national park every year, coming up on the 10th one this year, talk about how climate change impacts the environment. I was at the headwaters of the Colorado River when we were shooting out video at the time when Donald Trump pulled us out of the Paris Accord. This is fundamental. The agents of chaos have taken us away from this. But the issue that our grandchildren will be most pissed off about us is that we haven't been able to do anything about climate change. Great first step under Biden, stopped again by Trump.
Thank you. Okay, Candidate Conroy, we will start this next question with you. How should policymakers address concerns about law enforcement use of force, including any racial disparities?
It's a very good question. I'm completely fortunate that this is not something I've ever had to think about growing up. And I think that that's not the reality for a lot of people that live in this country. I've never felt threatened by law enforcement. I've never felt scared of them. And the fact that certain people within our communities do is completely wrong. I think that when we look at how we draft policy, we need to take that into account. We need to ensure that everyone feels like they're safe. Everyone feels like they belong. No one feels threatened simply based on the color of their skin, what they look like. And we need to ensure that if anyone is found to have used excessive force, law enforcement or not, that they are held accountable. And we need to ensure that we make them pay fines, and if appropriate, they face jail time.
Thank you so much. Representative Quigley?
After one of the many tragedies of police violence that took place in our country, I was supportive of Representative John Lewis' legislation to meet that head on. It is all too common. At the State of the Union, one time President Obama said about this issue, the spouse of a police officer has a right to believe that the officer is going to come home safely that day. He said, at the same time, the parents of black teenagers have a right to know that they're not going to be hassled, arrested, and rustled just because of the color of their skin. That is the challenge this country is still yet to face, and is one that we're going in the wrong direction with this president posting racist tweets and taunts. It's a scary time for this. It shows to us that progress isn't always linear, and we can't take that for granted.
Thank you so much. Candidate Corley, same question. How should policymakers address concerns about law enforcement use of force, including any racial disparities?
Yes, we really need to review the root cause of the problem. You know, I was involved with this Alliance Against Racist Political Oppression group that was started by Angela Davis. And the more I continue to be involved protesting against the Laquan McDonald massacre, shooting, and there's been no justice. The police have qualified immunity from prosecution. The judges have absolute immunity from prosecution. Now they've given Trump absolute immunity for prosecution. This is a Nazi, what the Nazis gave themselves. And so it all goes back to Operation Gladio, and I can back it all up. So I'll do more of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidates, we'll take one final question and then we'll move to closing statements. We will begin with Representative Quigley. What policies, if any, would you support to address housing affordability?
I think I addressed a little bit in the earlier question, but this is a time when we need to build, baby, build, right, at all levels. There's legislation that I've introduced that encourages cities who have resisted housing development from going forward with a carrot and stick approach. There's tax policy there. The fact of the matter is, when I got out of school, the average age in which a person bought their first house was 28. It's 40 now because they come out of college or trade schools with way, way too much debt. And those barriers are just extraordinary. So at least some of this is good old-fashioned supply-side economics, where we're going to have to build more housing at all income levels. So at least that's part of what addresses this. And understanding that, as I said before, it's tied to transit, and those two are so intertwined, they're the same thing. So when we're planning, we think transit, we need to think housing at the same time.
Thank you so much. Candidate Corley, what policies, if any, would you support to address housing affordability?
Again, it's the root of the problem. It starts with the top of the financial Wall Street, City of London, debt and finance. I just read yesterday, 31% of the people, the oligarchs, have 30% of the wealth. That trajectory has just gone worse. And why? Because of the deregulation policies put in by Nixon, the Republicans, granted, but the Democrats haven't stopped it, because basically Clinton and Bush were in on it together. It's all done through technology. The software that was stolen, this promised software in 1980, enabled Israel, the corrupt DOJ and CIA to be able to rig elections. They developed systematics that the Clintons were using along with Bush to steal elections, money launder everything out of the banks.
Thank you so much. And finally, Candidate Conroy, this question to you. What policies, if any, would you support to address housing affordability?
Well, I do agree with Congressman Quigley that we do need to build, like that we need to make more housing units available. But he sat on the HUD subcommittee and we have a housing shortage. So he hasn't addressed it during his time in office and he's saying he's going to now. Okay. It's not sexy, but zoning laws are the #1 thing that are restrictive in this country. The city of Chicago has roughly 150 unique zoning ordinances. The entire country of Japan has just 12. A country of 100 million people has just 12 zoning ordinances. We have to make it simpler to build. We have to provide financial incentives to people who are going to build locally, who are going to invest in underserved communities, who are going to invest in transit-oriented housing, who are going to invest in their communities, provide opportunities for business owners. That is how we solve the housing crisis. We need to make it easier for the people who want to build more housing to simply do so.
Thank you so much. So time now requires that we move to closing statements. Candidates, as a reminder, you will each have 1 minute, and we will begin with candidate Corley.
Yes, thank you. The reason I'm running is that I want to lead the resistance to the virtual takeover of the United States. It's called the Fourth Reich by knowledgeable researchers like Jim Marrs and many. I'm weekly on the International Peace Coalition calls with the Schiller Institute, the LaRouche Group. They're economists that have an idea of how we really should be doing development. But the main thing is we have $40 trillion in debt now, and that is unsustainable, and nobody knows what's going to happen. Carolyn Roberts told me about this. She said, "What's the key issue?" And I saw this diagram of what we're coming into. And how do you get rid of $40 trillion in debt? That's the question. We got to be honest about it rather than just keep going to wars the way both parties are doing now.
Thank you. Candidate Matthew Conroy, you have 1 minute for your closing statement.
Thank you so much for your time and having me today. I really do appreciate it. When you get to the ballot box or when you sit down and look at your mail-in ballot this spring or in the next few weeks, you're going to have to ask yourself one question. Do I think the Democratic Party has done a good job? And if the answer is yes, vote for Mike Quigley, who is also running for mayor, so he would just abandon us next year anyway, leave us without representation for a few months. Or if the Democratic Party hasn't done a good job, which is probably why you're here, you have to vote for change. You have to make the change happen yourself. And I'm asking for your vote for a better future, one that addresses housing, healthcare, childcare, small businesses, all the things that the Democratic Party has failed to do. Thank you seriously so much for your time. I really do appreciate it. I'll be out in the conference room or in the hallway after to answer any questions. And thank you again so much.
Thank you. And finally, Representative Mike Quigley, you have 1 minute for your closing statement.
There are people who like to talk about advocating, and there's people who know how to govern. Yesterday, I had lunch with Bobby Rush. He's talking about housing projects in Inglewood. So he came to me because he knows I've gotten hundreds of millions of dollars in housing dollars put into our cities all across the country. When I leave here today, I'm going to go look at the Village of Barrington wastewater treatment plant because I got them $1 million in upgrades. Hasn't been upgraded since 1979. But in the meantime, we got the Algonquin Road separation, the Haven project in Palatine, lead line service replacement in Arlington Heights, also a bike path in Arlington Heights, the Cook County Bussey Road rebuild. I don't have enough time to get through the earmarks and projects that were brought here. Desplained sewer, Flint Creek restoration, Mount Prospect pedestrian bridge. There are people who want to tell you what they want to do, people who have gotten it done. Thank you.
Thank you so much. My sincere thanks to all the candidates for your time today and your willingness to serve. And at this point, I'm going to turn it back over to Rebecca to close us out.
As we bring the forum to a close, I want to thank the candidates for their participation. On behalf of the League of Women Voters, the Schaumburg-Hoffman Estates chapter of Delta Sigma Theta and the Barrington Library, thank all of you for coming. We would like to also extend our sincerest thanks to Sam Adams Lanham and the library staff, as well as the candidates who made today's forum possible. Remember that there are several ways to cast your ballot. Post offices policies have changed for mail-in ballots, so be sure to check the information on the tables by the windows to ensure your ballot is received in time to be counted. Also, if you know someone that is 17 years old currently that will be 18 by the November general election, make sure they are registered to vote and vote in this primary. Make it easy. We also want you to know that you should make it easy, and you can use Vote 411 to register to vote. Find out where you can vote early, find your regular polling place and who's on your ballot. If you haven't already, please grab one of these cards from the table. That's the Vote 411 card. So again, please participate in democracy by casting your ballot. Your voice, your vote is your voice. Have a good afternoon.